For months, the narrative has been about the disrespect, the hard fouls, and the petty jealousy directed at Caitlyn Clark. But while the WNBA veterans were busy trying to haze the rookie, the biggest bank account in the world was watching. We aren't talking about a shoe deal. We aren't talking about a max contract extension. We are talking about a rumored $1 billion disruption that Stephen A. Smith just validated live on air.
Stephen A. Smith shocked the entire basketball world when he went on air and revealed something nobody expected. For months, he warned the WNBA that their mistreatment of Caitlyn Clark would cost them everything, but nobody thought the fallout would happen this fast.
The rumors are no longer just whispers in dark corners of the internet. Reports are surfacing that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is preparing a hostile takeover of women's basketball. And they have identified their two primary targets, Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham.
Now, he claims Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham have already agreed to a $1 billion deal with a Saudi-backed league. The news spread like wildfire because if this leak is true, the WNBA is facing the biggest crisis in its history. Fans, players, and executives are scrambling as the league's entire future hangs in the balance.
It's a move that would pair the greatest shooter of a generation with one of the most marketable stars in the league, creating a breakaway dynamic that the WNBA simply cannot afford to fight.
Stephen A. Smith did not stumble into this moment. He's been building toward it for months, calling out the WNBA louder than any analyst on television. Every time Caitlyn Clark took a hard hit, every time a veteran tried to belittle her success, every time the league failed to protect the player carrying its financial future, Stephen A. was the one voice refusing to downplay what everyone else ignored. He warned that the league was fumbling the greatest star it had ever seen, and he kept repeating that if the WNBA did not change quickly, someone with far deeper pockets would step in and reshape the sport.
Stephen A. Smith warned the league. He told them that if they didn't protect their golden goose, someone else would come and buy the whole farm. Well, it looks like the check has cleared. To understand why this billion-dollar rumor is terrifying the WNBA front office, you have to look at the messenger. Stephen A. Smith has been the loudest voice in the room when it comes to the mishandling of Caitlyn Clark.
Now his latest revelation feels less like commentary and more like the final chapter of a warning nobody wanted to believe. What makes his words explosive is not just the message, but the messenger. Stephen A. Smith has relationships across the NBA, WNBA, and international sports markets. He has a history of breaking stories long before they become public. When he spoke about this supposed $1 billion deal involving Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham, it did not sound like speculation. It sounded like someone who had seen the paperwork. His tone was measured but firm, as if he knew he was dropping a bomb that would shake the foundation of the entire league.
While other analysts were trying to play nice and pretend that the hard fouls and the mean girl energy were just competitive spirit, SAS called it what it was: jealousy. He went on national television and screamed that the WNBA was fumbling the biggest gift they had ever been given. He pointed out the absurdity of Clark flying commercial, getting shoulder-checked by Chennedy Carter, and being left off the Olympic team. But his most recent comments have shifted from criticism to a dire prediction.
For weeks, he hinted that powerful organizations outside the country were studying the chaos surrounding Caitlyn Clark. He suggested that the constant targeting, the jealousy, and the refusal to protect her from unnecessary hits were going to push her out. He said the WNBA was treating a generational star like a disposable rookie, and that eventually the market would correct itself. When he finally revealed the details of the Saudi offer, it felt like the correction had arrived.
Smith confirmed that the market always corrects itself. He argued that you cannot keep a superstar suppressed in a system that pays her $76,000 a year when her market value is in the hundreds of millions. Smith pointed out that the old guard of the WNBA thought they could bully Clark into submission, forcing her to wait her turn. But they forgot that we live in an era where player leverage is king.
Fans noticed his confidence, executives noticed his intent. Players noticed the shift in his language. Stephen A was no longer criticizing, he was confirming. And the weight of his confirmation sent shockwaves through the league, because if he is right, the WNBA just lost control of its most valuable assets.
This is where the Saudi rumor becomes impossible to ignore. The Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, deals in billions, not thousands. When they look at an asset like Clark, they don't see a rookie who needs to pay her dues. They see a global icon who is being undervalued by 99%. If the rumors of a $1 billion investment into a new league or tournament structure are true, the offer to Clark wouldn't be a salary. It would be an empire. We are talking about an upfront payment that could dwarf the entire career earnings of every other WNBA player combined. And when you put that check next to the WNBA's $76,000 offer, there is no decision to make.
The moment the $1 billion figure surfaced, it became clear this was not a simple endorsement deal or a flashy appearance fee. This was the kind of offer designed to pull an entire sport off its foundation. Reports describe the Saudi proposal as a full league replacement modeled around star power, not traditional team structures. Their goal is simple: acquire the most influential players in women's basketball, build a global tournament-style product, and position it as the premier destination for elite talent. To make that happen, they chose Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham as the pillars of their launch. When you look at the numbers, the WNBA cannot compete. Caitlyn Clark earns less than $100,000 from her rookie contract. Even with sponsorships, her earnings do not come close to matching the revenue she generates. The Saudi offer reportedly includes upfront money that alone surpasses the lifetime earnings of every WNBA player combined. This is not a pay raise, it is a transfer of power. Once Caitlyn Clark signs a deal like this, she becomes the face of a globally funded league backed by unlimited resources. Sophie Cunningham's involvement reveals the strategy behind the deal. She brings charisma, marketability, and a massive digital presence. While Caitlyn Clark drives the global spotlight, Sophie brings the social energy that keeps fans locked in. A duo like this can launch a brand in a way the traditional WNBA model simply cannot. The Saudis are focusing on players who pull audiences, not just players who dominate stat sheets. What makes the situation even more dangerous for the WNBA is how the Saudis move. They do not negotiate with salary caps, collective bargaining agreements, or board approvals. They write one check and reshape the landscape overnight. The rumored deal includes luxury travel, global tour stops, no salary restrictions, and revenue percentages that simply do not exist in American women's basketball. The reality is harsh. A $1 billion offer is not a rumor you ignore. It is a signal that a new power has arrived, and it is hunting for the very stars the WNBA failed to protect.
The truth is, the WNBA created the perfect environment for this takeover, even if they never intended to. For years, players have complained about low salaries, exhausting travel schedules, back-to-back games with no charter flights, and a league culture that often felt more punitive than protective. But everything boiled over the moment Caitlyn Clark arrived. Instead of embracing the player who single-handedly boosted attendance, TV ratings, and merchandise sales, the league allowed a wave of hostility to define her rookie season. Veterans who should have welcomed her instead treated her like an intruder. The tone was set long before opening night. The infamous Kennedy Carter hit became the moment everything changed. Fans across the country watched Clark get checked like a rag doll while the referees stood motionless. What should have been a clear flagrant was brushed off as physical play. Then Diana Taurasi's comments resurfaced, warning Clark that reality was coming. To new fans, it looked less like mentorship and more like resentment. The league had a chance to send a message that its brightest star would be protected, but instead it allowed the narrative to spin out of control. Behind the scenes, players whispered about the old guard refusing to give up power. Analysts outside the league wondered why the WNBA seemed more concerned with preserving hierarchy than building momentum, and fans felt something was off. How could a league desperate for growth allow its most bankable star to be targeted on live TV without consequences? The answer was simple. The culture was broken long before Caitlyn arrived. This tension created the perfect opening for outside forces. Investors look for weaknesses. They look for dissatisfaction. They look for moments when a league is more focused on internal politics than long-term success. By the time the Saudi group started evaluating players, the WNBA had handed them a gift, a superstar feeling isolated, a fan base furious, a league struggling to control its own message. Instead of nurturing the greatest opportunity in league history, the WNBA inadvertently pushed its most valuable players into the arms of the highest bidder. And now that bidder is ready to build something far bigger.
Caitlyn Clark is not just another talented rookie. She is a global phenomenon who broke through every barrier the moment she stepped onto a professional court. What separates her from the rest of the field is not simply her scoring ability or deep range, but her impact on the business of basketball. Every arena she visits sells out. Every broadcast featuring her spikes in ratings. Every merchandise drop involving her sells faster than anything the league has ever seen. She revived interest in a sport that struggled for decades to reach mainstream audiences, and she did it before even completing a full season. This is exactly why international investors circled her name first. To them, she is not just a player, she is a movement. They see a star who draws crowds effortlessly. They see someone who can shift cultural conversations without trying. They see a once-in-a-generation attraction who makes sponsors, networks, and advertisers compete for attention. When the Saudis analyzed potential faces for a new global basketball product, Caitlyn Clark ranked at the top of every metric that mattered. Her appeal crosses borders. Clips of her deep threes trend in countries where basketball is not even a major sport. Fans who never watched a WNBA game suddenly care because she is on the court. Parents bring their kids specifically to see her. She has created something the league has never experienced before, a genuine star effect that transforms every environment she enters. The Saudis understand how rare that is. In sports, true global anchors appear once every decade. They can take a new league and make it relevant instantly. They can sell out international arenas without carrying an entire national fan base. Caitlyn Clark has reached that level faster than anyone expected, and the Saudis know they cannot wait. If they are serious about building a billion-dollar venture, they need the centerpiece who guarantees attention on day one. This is why Stephen A. Smith's leak hit so hard. Losing a player like Caitlyn Clark is not the loss of one athlete, it is the loss of the league's growth engine. It is the moment the spotlight moves, and once it moves, it rarely returns.
Sophie Cunningham's name sparked immediate confusion for people who look only at box scores, but for anyone who understands marketing, branding, and modern sports consumption, her inclusion makes perfect sense. Sophie is not simply a role player, she is one of the few WNBA personalities who built a recognizable identity that extends far beyond the court. She has charisma, personality, and a tough edge that fans gravitate toward. Cameras find her even when she is not the one taking the last shot, because she carries that magnetic presence that sponsors love and audiences remember. International investors do not choose stars based solely on points per game. They choose stars who can sell a product. They choose personalities that ignite conversations, generate reactions, and draw viewers who might not normally watch. Sophie fits that exact mold. She is confident, outspoken, and has a strong connection to fans online. Her social media presence alone rivals the engagement of players considered statistically superior. She knows how to entertain, whether she is on the floor or speaking to the press. Pairing Sophie with Caitlyn Clark is a strategic decision. Caitlyn brings the global spotlight. Sophie brings the energy and personality that keeps viewers hooked. Together, they appeal to both casual fans and diehard supporters. They create a dynamic that sponsors can build campaigns around. They create a visual, emotional, and marketable duo that instantly feels like a brand. The Saudis are not just trying to start a basketball league. They are trying to build a global entertainment product, and entertainment requires stars who can command attention. Sophie's toughness also plays a role. International leagues love players who show fire and grit. She plays with emotion, and that emotion translates well on camera. In a new league that will rely heavily on highlight clips, personality-driven rivalries, and global storytelling, Sophie becomes the perfect counterpart to Caitlyn's polished superstar glow. This combination signals a clear blueprint. The Saudi project does not want to mirror the traditional WNBA model. They want a cast of characters. They want faces that audiences recognize instantly. They want the viral moments that fuel modern sports culture. And in their eyes, Sophie Cunningham is one of the few players who can carry that weight beside Caitlyn Clark on the world stage.
To understand how serious this takeover attempt is, you only need to look at what happened to golf. Before LIV Golf existed, the PGA core was seen as untouchable. It had history, money, structure, and complete control over the sport. Then the Saudi Public Investment Fund arrived with an entirely different philosophy. They did not negotiate. They did not ask permission. They simply wrote checks so large that even legends of the sport could not ignore them. In a matter of months, players who had spent their entire careers on the PGA Tour walked away because the financial gap was too massive to justify loyalty. The exact same pattern is unfolding now with women's basketball.
The WNBA operates with strict salary caps, collective bargaining rules, and owners who often claim they are losing money. Their biggest stars make a tiny fraction of what their male counterparts earn. The Saudis, on the other hand, have no cap and no reluctance to spend. Their strategy is straightforward. Identify undervalued athletes, offer life-changing money, build a competing product that pushes the old system into irrelevance. This is not a theory. It is the same playbook they have already used successfully. What made LIV Golf unstoppable was not only the money, but the timing. Players were frustrated with schedules, travel, and lack of control. The Saudis stepped in and gave them everything they were missing: luxury travel, flexible formats, guaranteed pay, creative freedom. The rumors surrounding this new Saudi basketball league mirrors those exact incentives: fewer games, global tour stops, charter jets, no salary limits, and most importantly, ownership stakes for marquee stars like Caitlyn and Sophie. This model is built to attract players who feel disrespected, underpaid, or overlooked. It gives them power the WNBA has never offered. It gives them control over how they travel, how they market themselves, and how much they can earn. Once a player experiences that freedom, it becomes nearly impossible to return to a league where everything is restricted. The WNBA is now facing the same threat the PGA once did. When a new system offers everything the old one refuses to provide, players follow the opportunity. And once the biggest stars leave, the rest of the sport follows with them.
Inside the WNBA front office, the mood has shifted from irritation to outright panic. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert spent the past year pitching networks on a bold vision for the league's future. Every meeting, every chart, every negotiation revolved around one central figure: Caitlyn Clark. She was the engine behind the rising attendance, the jump in merchandise sales, and the historic spike in TV ratings. The league positioned her as the proof that women's basketball was finally ready for billion-dollar media rights deals. But Stephen A. Smith's leak detonated that entire strategy in one afternoon. Broadcasters do not invest in hope, they invest in certainty, and Caitlyn Clark was the league's only guarantee. Losing her would collapse every projection the WNBA has handed to advertisers, sponsors, and TV executives. Without her, the numbers look exactly like they did before the Clark era: lower ratings, empty seats, struggling franchises. Cathy Engelbert knows that if Clark signs elsewhere, the entire negotiating table flips. Networks will slash their offers or walk away completely. That means less revenue, smaller salary caps, and a return to the financial instability players have fought against for decades. The irony is brutal. Some veterans spent months downplaying Clark's impact, mocking the attention she received, and trying to enforce outdated hierarchies. But those same players now depend on the revenue she generates to secure the raises they want in the new CBA. By allowing jealousy and hostility to overshadow common sense, they hurt not only Clark but themselves. Without her, the league's future salaries shrink, brand partnerships disappear, visibility fades. The financial ripple effect is catastrophic. Executives fear one thing above all: once Clark leaves, others will follow. The Saudis do not need 20 players to start a league. They need 3 or 4. The moment the first star signs, the entire power structure shifts. Younger players will chase the money, mid-tier players will chase better conditions, veterans nearing retirement will chase their last big payday. The WNBA cannot stop that domino effect. Stephen A. Smith's leak exposed what the front office hoped to ignore. The league no longer controls its destiny. One decision from Caitlyn Clark can rewrite the future of women's basketball, and the WNBA is running out of time to prevent it.
What makes this entire situation even more unsettling for the WNBA is the silence. Normally, when a story this explosive hits the internet, agents rush to deny it. Teams issue statements. PR managers scramble to shut down rumors before they spiral out of control. But this time, nobody is saying a word. Caitlyn Clark's camp is quiet. Sophie Cunningham's camp is quiet. Even the league itself is avoiding any direct response. In professional sports, silence is never accidental. Silence is strategy. And more often than not, silence is confirmation that conversations are happening behind closed doors. Stephen A. Smith did not drop this leak casually. He doubled down, repeated himself, and kept escalating his tone across multiple platforms. He sounded like a man who knew what was coming. Analysts picked up on the shift immediately. When Stephen A. has bad information, he corrects it fast. When he has good information, he leans forward and speaks as if the outcome is already in motion. His confidence sent a message to fans and executives alike. This is not a rumor. This is preparation. There is also the timing. Caitlyn Clark is in the middle of a grueling season, traveling constantly, facing relentless physical play, and carrying the weight of an entire league. As the season wears on, the appeal of private jets, global events, luxury accommodations, and generational money becomes harder to ignore. Every long flight, Every flagrant foul that goes uncalled, every jealous comment from a veteran, every moment compounds the idea that there might be a better life elsewhere. Agents understand leverage better than anyone. If they wanted to shut this down instantly, they could. A single statement from Clark's representatives would erase the headlines. Yet they remain silent because denying the rumor kills negotiation power. Keeping quiet keeps both doors open. It forces the WNBA to panic. It forces networks to rethink their offers. It forces all parties to bid higher. This silence is not hesitation, it is leverage, and it signals that the players know exactly how powerful they have become. All signs point to one conclusion. Something is happening behind the scenes, and the WNBA may be the last to know until the announcement becomes impossible to hide.
The basketball world is holding its breath as the biggest shift in women's sports history approaches. Stephen A. Smith's leak did more than sport chaos. It exposed how fragile the WNBA's foundation has become. If Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham truly sign with the Saudi-backed league, the entire landscape changes overnight. The WNBA loses its brightest star, its financial engine, and its negotiating power. Fans will follow the talent, sponsors will follow the attention, and the league that should have protected its future may be forced to watch it walk away. The only question now is how soon it happens.